All right, mate, how you doing? Welcome back to another video. It's time to react to my pre-tournament Euro 2024 predictions, see how well I did. If you watched my last video, which was me reacting to the departure of Gareth Southgate, my voice is still gone. I lost it at the final. Make sure you watch that video if you haven't already. Let's get into it. So starting off with the group stage, how many did I get right? Obviously, 6 groups. 4 teams, 24 teams, so 24 potential right answers here. If you got them all in the exact same spot or the exact right spot as to where they finished, pretty hard to do. I'd be surprised if many people did it. There's always a few surprises. Group A, I did get exactly right, to be fair. It was a good start. I had Germany top, Switzerland second, Hungary third, Scotland fourth. For me, no disrespect, but Scotland was the easy one. I was very, very confident they were going to finish fourth. And the first game of the tournament kind of reinforced that point when they got battered by Germany, which is ironic because it's them that like to batter things, i.e. sausages. As for the rest of the group, I got a bit of comments, oh, Spen, you're sleeping on Hungary. Spen has no ball knowledge. What about Hungary? Like, got it exactly right, mate. So wind your neck in. Group B, similar. Also exactly right. Now, yes, my predictions weren't that crazy. They weren't that out there. It wasn't deliberate. I just went with what I felt would happen based on the teams and the squads and the managers and all these things. And sometimes that's easier. Sometimes it's harder. Like in these two groups, it just happened the way I thought it would happen, quite frankly. Spain to win the group. Now, did I think Spain would be as good as they were? Not a chance. It was up in the air for me as to whether they'd win this group, but I did back them. But by no means did I consider them winning this tournament. And I think that's actually quite a common situation, a common prediction for this tournament. There's teams with way better squads than Spain, maybe not as better as I now think, because I've seen the likes of Nico Williams a little bit more. I've seen Cucurella change his form completely and become left back of the tournament. You know, I've seen strong performances across the board. Lamine Yamal, standout. I didn't see that coming at all. But I did see him winning the group. We'll get more onto Spain later. Italy, I thought would get second. Croatia, third. Albania, fourth. So yeah, again, we won't dwell on these ones because I got them exactly right, which is good. They're the only 2 groups I did get exactly right. It starts to deteriorate a little bit from here. Group C was England's group, of course, and thankfully, I did predict us to win the group. I did predict Denmark to finish second. I just got third and fourth the wrong way round. You know, so sue me. I had Serbia to finish above Slovakia, and it was the other way around. Serbia finished fourth. But for me, they're interchangeable. That is a prediction I can happily sleep with. Very hard to predict what's going to happen in the game between the 2 teams and all the other things. You know, England got 5 points. Yes, a little bit of a damp squib of a group stage from England. We kind of just squeezed through in first. It ended up being amazing for us in terms of getting a good draw. I think that was more because of what happened in other groups than it was something that we earned. But ultimately, this isn't going to be about England and Southgate and all those things. But in any tournament, all you can do is win your group. So you can't really complain too much. But yeah, 2 right, 2 wrong. So at this point, halfway through the group stage, I've actually got 10 out of 12 right, which I think is pretty decent. Now we look at the second half of the group stage, it does drop off a little bit. Group D, I only got 1 right, and that was Poland to finish bottom. The other 3 were all wrong. Now, I'd be amazed if many people did a prediction with Austria to finish top. I know a lot of people felt that he was going to get Ralf Rangnick, was going to get them playing, get them pressing. I think that's what we're seeing in international football a little bit more now is these teams that on paper know they're not as good as the bigger teams. They have a combined way of playing, the combined mentality they can share and get behind and actually become better as a result. They wind their necks in. They drop the egos at the door. I think this is something I sort of addressed in the Southgate video that made England so successful in the early days of Southgate's era, whereby the squad wasn't as good as it is now. Now, we're still successful in the sense that we just got to a final. Spoiler alert, you should know that by now. That's what's going to happen. England get to the final. But the playing style has dropped off for me. And I think that's partly because we are known to be good now, whereas maybe when Southgate came in, we weren't. And I think with Austria, that's a great example. You know, they won their group, a difficult group with many people's pre-tournament favourites, France and Netherlands in there. To win that group on the final day could have been very different. That game against Netherlands was crazy. They've done extremely well, and they've kind of messed up everyone's sort of permutations for how the rest of the tournament was going to go. Everyone thought France would win their group and England would win theirs, and therefore set up a potential England-France semi-final, which obviously didn't happen. So fair play to Austria. 3 out of 4 wrong on Group D. Group E is a stinker. It's the only group where I got everything wrong. zero, zilch, nada in the right position. In hindsight, it's easy to look back and think you know what you're talking about. This group was actually much more open than I thought. I think the days of Belgium just being predicted as a guaranteed group winner are over, certainly in my eyes. I think that their golden era, the golden generation, which I know Kevin De Bruyne didn't like them being called, is definitely over. We're probably going to see a few more of those guys not play in the next tournament. Maybe De Bruyne, maybe, or surely Vertonghen, maybe Lukaku. But should they have still won that group with the squad they had? Probably. I think what I just said about Group D is really true in here. You look at teams like Romania, who did really well. They won the group. Actually, if you remember what I did say about Romania in the predictions, I didn't predict them to win the group. I actually had them to finish third, but I did say this. Something is saying inside my waters, I'm just hearing Romania being whispered. And I don't know why. So I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy that I slipped it in there. However, you will see I also tipped Ukraine to do a little bit in this tournament later in the video where I had them as my underdogs and they finished bottom. So I can't talk too tough about my Group E predictions. My worst group, ultimately. And then finally, Group F, out of the 4 teams, I only had 2 of them in the right position. If you're going to have 2 right, you want it to be the top 2. You want to be able to say, I knew who was going to definitely progress from that. And I did. I got Portugal, Turkey, bang on. I just got Czech Republic and Georgia the other way around. Shout out to Georgia, by the way, who I think coming in super minnows, underdogs, whatever you want to call them, really smashed it. And it's so strange when, you know, England can get to the final of a tournament, lose narrowly to a very good Spain team 2-1. Georgia, you know, can get knocked out in the knockout stages at the earliest opportunity against the eventual winners, Spain. But Georgia have come out with way more sort of plaudits, I'd say, than England from this tournament. And certainly within their own country, those players will be absolute legends now. Because it's all relative. It's all about perspective, about what you expect, about what's realistic, about the population of your country, all these things. You know, every country isn't ultimately made equal in terms of chances of winning these things. So, after the group stage, 24 teams, I got 13 right, just over half, which when you consider I had 10 of the first 12 right is a big drop off in the back end. And yeah, I mean, it's average. It's very average, I'd say. In a group, in a tournament where there wasn't too many massive surprises, I would have liked to have done a bit better. So even though I only got 13 of 24 exactly right, I only got 4 wrong in terms of the teams that wouldn't progress, because obviously some third place teams went through. So it's a bit confusing, but basically of the 16 teams that progressed, I got 12 of them exactly right, which makes it sound a bit better than 13 of 24. However, this is where it gets a bit out there, obviously, because all the permutations are different now, because different teams played different teams to what I expected. So how we're going to do this in the knockout rounds and onwards, we're just going to say, look, did I have the right team progressing? Even if they played a different team to I thought they would, of the 8 teams that progressed the round of 16, you know, how many of them did I get right? That's how we're going to look at it. So the first 2 fixtures in the round of 16 were completely right because I got the first 2 groups right. So I had Germany to play Denmark, Switzerland to play Italy. However, only one of my predictions from this point on was right because I had Germany to beat Denmark, which was correct, but I had Italy to beat Switzerland, and that, of course, was wrong. In terms of Germany-Denmark, I think as hosts, you always have that little glow-up effect, that little 10% rise you get. And I think at this point, Germany looked like they could go far in the tournament. Denmark are no mugs. Germany dispatched them. Italy, Switzerland was the first probably shock of the tournament, you'd say. Neighbours, obviously. Italy aren't great, but probably should have done better. Switzerland really were impressing people this tournament to the point where when we played them, me and other people were genuinely worried about it. But yeah, Italy going out is a bit of a shock, and that's why I got it wrong. Now, next, I had Spain to go through, which was correct. I had them playing Czech Republic. They actually played Georgia. But I'm going to give myself a tick for that because obviously Spain got through this round. And Georgia, word to them, fair play. You know, they lost 4-1, but they went 1-0 up. They had everyone dreaming. I was really hoping that Georgia were going to win that because I was already thinking about potential England-Spain matchups at this point. And it was too much to ask. But what a team. Honestly, one of the countries that leads with the most plaudits for me. But Spain were just a joke. And this is where people realised, you know, not only did they smash the groups, they're being very dominant in knockout football now. And at least from this point on, if not already, Spain was starting to be people's favourites, certainly mine. Now, next up, I had England to go through. I thought we were going to play Romania, but we didn't, of course. We played Slovakia, and we made very, very hard work of it. And at this point in the tournament, like, my confidence was just completely gone. You saw my video that I made saying about why are England so bad in the group stage. At this point, I was just like, it was too late to change. Nothing was going to happen at this point. We weren't going to suddenly become amazing. It was just a case of can we grind out performances, which is exactly what we did in this game. You know, the Jude Bellingham overhead kick, the Harry Kane extra time winner. So the prediction is right. I thought England would progress through this round, but it was nowhere near as convincing as I'd hoped it would be. Next up, I had Portugal to go through. Again, thought they were going to play Croatia. They actually played Slovenia. They also made very hard work of it. Of course, this was the game that went to penalties. Portugal, we're going to have a bit of a chat about them at the end because I made some other Portugal-related predictions. But yeah, they definitely didn't deliver on their pre-tournament hype and the quality of their squad either. Netherlands versus Ukraine is what I thought would happen. It was actually Netherlands-Romania. But again, I got Netherlands to win, and they did win. So once you get to knockout football and you've got your big teams, I had a good amount of these right. And I'm not saying they were great predictions, but they were correct, ultimately. I thought it was going to be Belgium-Serbia in the 7th game of this round. It was actually, well, technically, it was, I guess you could put the Austria-Turkey game in there. If I had predicted that based on the group stage, being honest, I would have gone Austria to win, and they didn't. Turkey did it. So fair play to Turkey, or Turkiya, I should be saying, actually. I stand corrected. But Austria also deserves some credit for a really impressive group stage. But Turkiya, well done. Then finally, I had France to go through. Thought they were going to be playing Turkiya. They actually played Belgium at this point, and even though France massively underdelivered and underwhelmed this tournament, they still had enough to beat the ageing Belgium team, which, as we've talked about already, is on its way out. So in terms of this round of 16, of the 8 teams that progressed, I got 6 of them right. So I'm fairly happy with that. Again, Europeans only got so many sort of superpowers. So if you always back the superpower, you're going to probably be in a similar sort of form to what I am here, with a couple of shocks in there. So it's not incredible prediction by any means, but it's solid. It does start to deteriorate from this point on, if I'm honest, as we get into the quarterfinals. Now, this is where the teams really didn't match up. But ultimately, I thought Germany were going to play Spain, and I thought Germany would win that game. I thought Portugal were going to play Netherlands, and I thought Portugal would win that game. And neither of those teams did get through this round. I also had France and England to get through this round, which I was also right about, even though the oppositions were all wrong. So it's a 2 out of 4 situation. I had France and England as semi-finalists, and they were, but I also had Germany and Portugal, and they weren't. And let's talk about those games. Germany played Spain. I was thinking pre-tournament, again, as I've explained already, I didn't think Spain would be as good as they were, and I thought Germany would have a little bit more of a go up. Now, Spain started to just squeeze through these games 2-1 at this stage, but they were always really the dominant team, weren't they? They looked good. And I know there was the whole Cucurella handball, which was fascinating because every time he got the ball, you probably saw it on TV, but in the crowd, it was especially apparent. Every time Cucurella touched the ball in that stadium at the final, every single German fan, of which there was a lot as it was in Germany, were booing him every single time because of that handball. But Spain did get through that one. Portugal, Netherlands, if it had happened, I thought Portugal would win it. Obviously, that fixture didn't happen, but Netherlands did progress. Now, you never count out the Netherlands. They've always got a chance of going deep into tournaments. But in this particular example, I thought this would be a bridge too far. Certainly didn't see them get into the semi-finals. I think that their squad is solid, even without Frenkie de Jong. I mentioned in the original prediction, their attack was a bit underwhelming. Obviously, Gakpo had a good tournament. And I know Malen got a couple goals in one game, but ultimately, I think that's probably where they fell a little bit short. Obviously, Xavi Simons shone a little bit in there. I mean, the defensive options on the bench is crazy. They had De Ligt, they had Van de Ven, just sitting on the bench collecting dust. Like, honestly, we'd love some players of that quality on the bench for England. But yeah, I didn't have them going this far. I thought Belgium would play France and France would win. They did play each other. They played each other in a round previous to this. It was actually France-Portugal, and France won. So Portugal exited the tournament at the quarterfinal stage. I thought they'd make it to the semis. And the main reason, I've got to say, is Ronaldo. Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I talked about him, and I will talk about it again in the video, as a potential Golden Boot winner in this tournament. And I stand by it because he had so many chances. He easily could have got the Golden Boot. And it becomes a snowball effect whereby if he scored some of those goals earlier in the tournament, they'd been playing better, they would be scoring more, it would affect everything, and they probably would have gone further in the tournament, then he would have got more chances to score, etc. But what you can't deny is that Portugal were producing a lot of chances, which, in my opinion, an earlier version of Ronaldo scores. I saw so many opportunities where he was just glancing for these headers, and I feel like, I don't know what it was, timing was a bit off, maybe he lost a little bit of that famous leap that he has, but I swear Ronaldo of even just a couple of years ago scores them. And I don't think he could blame the service. I really don't. I think he was off it, and I think Harry Kane, despite scoring 3 goals this tournament, had a similar effect on England, to be honest, for other reasons, with the fact that he wasn't holding his position. And yes, you could argue Kane didn't have the same amount of service as Ronaldo this tournament, but how much service can you give someone that's so rarely in the box? I think Kane touched the ball twice in the opposition box across the last 2 Euros finals, once in each game. That's unacceptable for a striker in that England team, I'm afraid. Not necessarily all Harry Kane's fault, but certainly a lot of it was. But yeah, Portugal, Didn't go as far as I thought they would, and I'm blaming that mainly on Ronaldo. Obviously, we're going to not see Pepe again, I assume. He's older than Ronaldo. Ronaldo said we won't see another Euros out of him. Maybe we'll get one more World Cup, but Portugal need to really rethink their Ronaldo policy for me. It might be time to move on from him just because of the elephant in the room. Like, can he be a bit part player? Can he be a sub? I'm not sure he can. And it's like, he's bigger than almost in Portuguese football. So I understand why they're like, unless he retires, we have to take him. But he's making you worse. As long as you're happy to not win any more tournaments for the next couple of years and just have a sort of Ronaldo farewell encore, then enjoy it. Go, see what you can do. And he will still score some goals. I'm still surprised he didn't score. Obviously, he missed a penalty as well, which just kind of... It was just like watching a pantomime villain at that point, like people are comparing him to Homelander from The Boys at this point, whereas it's just this guy who just won't go and he's just unbeatable and he's just evil. He's obviously not evil, but he does feel like he thinks he's bigger than his country in a way, or he is Portugal. And I think any neutral watching can know that he's holding them back now. I think even just Goncalo Ramos up there or Jota starting more games, I think we could have seen Portugal go a lot deeper. I really do. That being said, I was wrong about this one. So I had France to go through. I thought they were going to beat Belgium. They beat Portugal. And then finally, I thought we were going to have an England-Italy quarterfinal. We obviously played the Swiss instead, but I did think England would win. I backed England to get to the semi-finals minimum, and we did get to the semi-finals. Obviously, we got further than that. So of these 4 rounds, if you like, of the quarterfinal stage, I got 2 semi-finalists right. I had England and France. I didn't have Spain to get there, and I didn't have the Netherlands to get there. And now it drops off even more as we get to the semis. I thought the semis were going to be Germany versus Portugal and France versus England. Obviously, those fixtures didn't happen. But of those teams, I backed Germany and France, and neither of them made the final either. Obviously, it was Spain and England. I didn't think Spain would get this far. I didn't think Netherlands would get this far. But I did think England would, but I thought we'd fall short against the French. And that would have been a really interesting game if we had played the French, because I'd say they had a similar tournament to us. I'd say we actually scored more goals from open play. I'd say they were probably a bit more solid at the back, maybe. I think Saliba did have a really good performance for them, a good tournament for them in general, considering he'd never really been a nailed-on starter for them. I tipped Saliba as a potential player of the tournament for this tournament in the predictions. And again, in the comments, some people like Spence. Saliba's not even a starter for them. Well, he did start. And I was pretty sure that Deschamps was going to see the light and start him because it was a no-brainer. And he was very good. Yes, they didn't score for much from open play, but they didn't concede from open play, I don't think, until they played Spain. So Deschamps and Southgate have some similarities. Deschamps yet to stand down as a French manager, though, and that he may stay. Obviously, he's got a tournament in his back pocket, a World Cup win, but a lot of similarities there with the way they line up, with the way they make it quite unenjoyable to watch their country. Deschamps going a bit further than Southgate and actually coming out and saying, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Southgate would never say that. Deschamps a bit more of a happy to be a bit of a villain, I guess, as well. But so the predictions were wrong here. The final ended up being Spain-England. I thought it was going to be Germany-France. I backed France to win it against Germany. We didn't see that fixture at any point. It would have been an interesting fixture as well. I think in hindsight, Germany might have done them, to be honest, just with the home support behind them. But France, similar tournament to England, one of the best squads in it, didn't deliver, didn't step up. I'd say Portugal were in that camp as well in terms of pre-match potential, but I would say Portugal were entertaining to watch. I would say that there was, I can understand the way they lined up. I think there's other things they could have done. They could have changed things up, but they did create chances, and their games were much more back, end to end. And England, France actually were disappointing, not just in what they achieved, although you could argue, England did pretty well to get to the final anyway, but in how they actually were to watch, that they just weren't entertaining enough, and that's a problem both countries need to address, in my opinion. Obviously, Spain won the whole thing, and I didn't see them doing that. I didn't call out and say they were going to win it. I think I had them going out in the quarterfinal stage, so quite a few rounds off that. You've got to hold your hands up there and say, I was off it. I say my group stage predictions were solid. I say my knockout predictions dropped off a little bit there. Spain being the big one, really, because I still think I'm not taking the blame for Portugal's performance, because a lot of these managers, they fail to change things in games. Southgate should have dropped Kane and Foden at some point earlier in the tournament, in my opinion. Even if it just gave him a kick up the arse to then be better in a later round, but he never did that. They maybe got a bit, dare I say, not lazy, but a little bit complacent because they knew their place was solid, And I think Ronaldo should have been dropped. And I think Portugal might have, they could have won the whole thing. They could have. They certainly would have been a good final against Spain if they had that right team cooking. So I'm not taking the blame for those predictions being wrong. I'm talking about bad management, bad in-tournament management from the Portugal manager, the England manager, and arguably the France manager. Okay, maybe the Mbappe nose injury was a big factor. Maybe it was. He definitely didn't look on it in the same way. He just got the one goal in the tournament. That's not what we expect from Mbappe. He didn't want to go with youth in there. Deschamps, he could have had Camavinga and Tchouaméni playing together more. Instead, he favoured Rabiot in there. Did he play Griezmann more than he warranted? This back end of his career. He didn't even take Michael Olise. They're talking in the French media about how they don't have that creative midfielder or that extra person that couldn't change things. Well, surely he would have been worth a shout. And if they don't consider him soon, England should try and nick him, 100%. So in terms of tournament predictions, I'd say it's a 6 out of 10 at absolute best, to be honest. I'm not going to take any more credit than that. If you want a good prediction sort of score, you need to get the winners right. And I didn't get the winners right. I didn't even get them in the final. As for the other predictions, so obviously once you commit to like France winning it, you then base your predictions around that. I had Mbappe winning the Golden Boot, which he definitely didn't. And I had Ronaldo as another option. Between them, they got 1 goal. So that's poor, right? I'm going to blame the nose break for Mbappe getting it wrong. And I'm going to blame Ronaldo for not scoring because he should have. Because I think I said in my predictions, actually, we can go back and listen. I think I said he could get Golden Boot or he could score no goals. I think I felt that the chances were going to be there for him and he was either going to take them all or he was going to flop. And obviously he flopped. And I think Ronaldo is going to go one of 2 ways from this tournament. He's either going to flop and end up not starting for them or he's going to just score goals. And there wasn't a standout Golden Boot. A load of people shared it on 3 goals, and apparently they are all going to share it now. If it was hashtag, we'd do it on goals per minute, which I think would probably, I don't know, Olmo would definitely be in there with a shout. He didn't even start that many games, but he impacted things massively for Spain. You got a few other guys there did really well to get 3 goals, whereas Kane, he got the same amount of goals, but it feels like he didn't deserve them in a way. If he'd actually been in the box a little bit more, he might have. But I don't think Kane's like fallen off a cliff and deteriorated like some people are saying. I think he's carrying a knock, and I think he'll come good again in the next few years, and then he will eventually drop off. For best player, again, I thought France were going to win it, so I went Mbappe. Back up, I went Saliba. I think Saliba was probably France's best player in this tournament, but obviously they didn't get all the way. They did get to the semis, so I wasn't a million miles off. For best young player, I said Bellingham. Now, if England had won the tournament, would Bellingham have got best young player? Maybe not. Unless we absolutely smashed Spain in the final and Bellingham had been a big part of that, I think Yamal would have still got it. Especially when you consider he's 4 years younger than Bellingham. Bellingham just turned 21 this tournament. Yamal just turned 17. It's like he almost needs a new award because some people have won best young player at 22, 23 years old in the past. It's almost like the youngest young player he should get because he's the youngest player to, I think, play in the tournament, play in a final, score goals, assist goals, win young player. Just a freak of nature. Will he keep progressing at this rate? I don't know. I don't think we're seeing the next Messi or Ronaldo personally. But I do think he's going to be a world-class player for a long time. And for wild card, I said Ukraine, which ultimately was a bad shout. I think if you're looking at teams that deserved it, you'd probably say Turkey. You could say the Swiss. You could say Georgia just for what they did in the group stage ultimately. And you could maybe say Romania. All of them impressing. But I think Turkey, because of how far they got with a wild card. So I got that one wrong. So these predictions actually were quite poor. And I will do better next time. Bye.